Hi, Program Manager team. We are back for our second webinar for Program Manager Tech Training. I'm going to go over Unit 6 in the Intro to Web Development class, which is jQuery. So first of all, I just wanted to show off this lovely portfolio, which was our last project. This is by Maxwell, which is one of our new PMs in New York City. If we click into his portfolio, which he made through Replit, you can see that he's added these lovely photos. He's got links to his professional resources. Oh, right, he was able to do this hover. We've got an about me. See now that he's mastered the coding. And in his portfolio, he's already got all of these links to projects that he's made, and he only started like 2 months ago. So shout out to Maxwell there. All right, so let's get started on our next tech talk. So we're going to go over, again, like I said, Unit 6, which is jQuery. There are 4 different lessons for jQuery. I've listed sort of like a mini objective for all of them, just so you can see what we're going through. I did want to let you know, I know for returning program managers, this is a little bit of a review. So I wanted to give you some rationale just so that you didn't feel like we were just going over the same stuff. So this is a refresher after that summer slide because we haven't been doing curriculum for a while. We also have a couple curriculum changes since last year that I'm hoping to highlight during these slides. And I will try and give you some pointers on some common student misconceptions that I noticed this year, and like different ways to phrase things if your volunteers are getting a little stuck, because this is a more difficult concept for students as we head into jQuery. So volunteers might be used to students picking it up right away, and they might struggle trying to sort of like reframe so that more students can get the point. All right, so I'm hoping that you feel like this is a worthwhile webinar. Please give me feedback through Slack or whatever so that I know how to make the next one even better. Okay, so we're going to start with the 6.1 objective, which is that coders will use jQuery to select, show, and hide HTML elements. This is the first time that they are learning about jQuery. So that's one of our vocabulary words, along with action, selector, .show, and .hide. All right, so what is jQuery? We describe jQuery as what we use to make our websites interactive. Sorry, I'm distracted because this is automatically going. I did not do this. Okay, so if we think about HTML as the structure of our website and CSS as the style of our website, jQuery is part of JavaScript, and it's the interactive part. All right, so jQuery is a JavaScript library. We teach jQuery before JavaScript by itself. That's going to be Unit 7. And the reason why is it's super interactive. In 2 to 3 lines of code, you can actually get a website that like does something instead of that is just static, like Maxwell's portfolio basically is. This will allow him the ability to add to his portfolio things like making things disappear, making things appear, and changing things. All right, he was able to do that with Hover, but we're going to do this a little bit simpler with jQuery. All right, so jQuery in action. Basically, the most important thing to get students to understand right away is that jQuery works alongside with HTML. So you'll see that we're actually showing HTML first. All right. So when someone clicks a button element, it hides the image. You need to have that button element in HTML, and you need to have that image element in HTML. All right. So students actually need to write the HTML first, and they need to understand that HTML in order to use jQuery and JavaScript. All right, so we have our HTML on the top of our page. Here's the jQuery on the bottom right side. It's 3 lines of code if you count the little syntax things at the bottom that students need to remember. And basically what this means is that when the button element is clicked, the image element hides. All right, so you can see the word click there. You can see the word button there. Notice that button is also in the HTML. And then we see hide down on the second line and image down on the second line. So the way the English is written on the left side is actually exactly how I would explain it to students when you're talking about jQuery. All right, you have to start with when the button element is clicked, because notice that button and click are both on the first line of jQuery. Then we hide the image element, and we have image and hide on the second part. All right, if you say we hide the image element when we click the button, students are going to get confused because they actually have to write it about what they're clicking first and then what's hiding second. All right, so to break it down a little bit more simply, we have to start with the $ for jQuery. That's actually just like something that JavaScript needs, and you're saying like, hey, I'm using jQuery here. And then we start with the selectors on both lines. All right, so the first selector is what you are clicking. The second selector is what you are hiding. The selector is always going to go in quotes, all right, and in parentheses, if you can see. So we've got $, parentheses, quotes, and then the name of the selector. All right, if you wanted to click instead of a button, if you wanted to click an H1, you would put H1 on that first line. All right. Okay, and then the event is the thing that's dot blank. So when this event is happening is that they're clicking, right? So the event happens, the click happens, all right? So what the user does to the selector is they click the button, and that's the event. All right, the action is what the website does in response, so it hides the image. All right, again, this is just vocabulary, but your volunteers will probably use it, and if the students don't sort of like start to internalize the vocabulary, they're going to get confused when volunteers are giving them directions. All right, and then the other thing is if we don't want to say like when we click the button, and we want to say when we click a specific button or a specific thing, we need to add a class to it. So you can actually use class selectors to be more specific. All right, for those returning PMs, you can also use IDs here, but we are not teaching those in Intro to Web Development this year, just so you know. I also think that was the wrong abbreviation. Sorry. Okay, so let's do this live, because I know this was kind of hard with slides. Students as well will kind of like probably feel a little overwhelmed at this point, and it'll be really helpful for you to show them this live. All right. Opening up Popcode. All right, make sure you're logged in so that you can submit some of these activities at the end of this webinar. Cool. And one thing that actually I think is in the next slide, but I want to go over now, in order to make jQuery work, you actually need to go to libraries, because this is a library, and make sure that this jQuery button is checked. All right. If you are opening up an activity that was created by the curriculum team that needs jQuery, it's probably already going to be clicked, because it'll say that you have an error if it's not clicked. But if students are opening a brand new Popcode to make a project with no starter code, for example, or if you want to make an activity from scratch, you're probably going to have to activate this jQuery. Okay, so we've got some basics here. All right, we've got this whole first line written. So remember, this first line basically says when we click hide cats, which is a class, right? So when we click whatever the class hide cats is. So the first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of these directions first, is figure out where hide cats is. And hide cats is right here. It's a button, right? So it's a button called hide cats. So we want, when we click this hide cats, probably for the cat to hide. Yes, we're going to hide the cat image. Cool. Okay, so when we click hide cats, we're going to hide the cat. All right. So if we want to hide an image, we could just put in IMG. All right, right? And then this says when we click hide cats, we're going to hide the image, right? But when we click hide cats here, notice both images hide. So again, that's a reminder. That's why we want to use class names. This is probably something you're going to want your volunteers to show in the live coding, all right? Because that's something that we say in the slides, but until you see it happen, it's really confusing, right? All right, so we have when we click class hide cats, we just want to hide the cat pick. So cat pick here is class cat pick. So I'm going to put the dot for a class cat pick. All right, and now when I click hide cats, we hide the cat. All right, notice that when you click it again, it does not come back. All right, and we would do the same thing for dogs, right? So we would do hide, hide dogs. Oh, I I forgot the quotes. That's why this isn't working. There we go. Hide dogs. All right. Notice the indent here. We do want the indent. And then this is called up here, dog pick. All right, and we're gonna hide, you need these empty parentheses as well. And then when we click this, we hide the dogs. Cool. Okay, one other thing you might wanna show your students as you're doing this is just like if we just put IMG here, if you just put button here, then when you click either button, the dog pick is gonna hide. So now even if I click hide cats, they both disappear because I've basically said no matter which button I click, I want dog pick to hide. All right, so if you have multiple buttons on the page, if you have multiple images on the page or like multiple whatever, it's important for you to use classes, ditto for your students. All right, so if I refresh this, this comes back. There we go. All right, so that was our guided practice. All right, so I'm gonna click back in here. We already went over enabling jQuery. We already went over logging in, all right, so that you can save your activities, submit some of these. And I am going to have you pause the video right now and complete this whack-a-mole activity, which is pretty neat. Be very careful checking out your class names because it's a little tricky there on purpose for you to get used to checking into your HTML when you're doing jQuery. You can choose if you are doing mild, medium, and spicy, but I would open the medium one first. All right, if I check this out with you. All right, all you're really doing is correcting everything that says incorrect. You're gonna delete all the incorrects and you're gonna type in whatever is supposed to go here. All right, you wanna make it so that like when you click the moles, when you click whack me maybe. All right, the moles disappear. Okay, so pause the video. When you are finished, come back to this video and I will continue on. All right, I'm gonna assume that you are done with your whack-a-mole. So I'm gonna continue to go through to 6.2. If you had issues with this whack-a-mole, this is something that we can talk about at our tech talk in person on Friday. So that's something to let me know. I will leave room for you in Google Classroom to leave me notes about what you would like to go over in person. Okay, so heading into 6.2, this is going to be the second day that students are going through jQuery, all right? And we're going to add some jQuery actions like toggle, slide, and fade, all right? So this is a reminder that when we're talking about jQuery at this point, again, we're talking about 3 lines of code. I know that a lot of people don't consider this a whole line of code, but it's super important. And if students forget this, it's gonna not work. All right, so I like to think of it as 3 lines and tell students that it's 3 lines, right? We've got the $sign, we've got selectors here, we've got an event and an action. All right, so basically this whole lesson is just about like, what if you didn't want to just show or hide, right? All we learned last class was how to show something or how to hide something on your screen. Now we want to do some fancier things. We've got this demo here, right? We already know what hide is. We already know what show is, right? But once something is shown, you can't do anything with this button. So we are learning this new button that's important, which is toggle. All right, toggle just means you can both show and hide, right? So if it's hidden, it'll show. If it is shown, it will hide. All right, so we've got toggle now. If we want to get like fancier, we can slide up. We can slide down. All right, same deal. Once you slide up, you can't slide up again. Once you slide down, you can't slide down again. So we've got our slide toggle. All right, then we've got fading out, fading in, and fade toggle. All right, this is in the slides. So if you want to play around with this, just to take a look at what these actions do, it's here. All right, this is in students' guided notes. This is one of those slides that it's super important that you make sure your volunteers get your students to write down these notes and to be really careful about the capitalization. All right, this is called camel case, and it's really common in computer programming where it is lowercase for the first word and then uppercase for the second word. Students tend to not do this in this lesson, and then it will not work. It will not work if you have a lowercase t here. It will not work if you have an uppercase S here. And since they are writing the notes down, it's important that they write it with the correct capitalization. All right, guided practice here. We want this dog to appear and disappear with fade. Okay, so we want the dog image to disappear and appear. All right, so we've got is this a button? No, it's a div. Still acts as a button. All right, it is class dog fade. All right, I see class dog fade here. So we do want, when we click the button dog dash fade, right? We want this dog picture, which does not have a class, which is fine because it's the only image on the screen, right? We'll say fade. So $. All right, we're just gonna do IMG. Okay, so when we click dog fade, we're gonna make it fade out. And then we still need the parentheses. All right, let's see, dog fade, fade out. Cool. Then if I wanted to come back in, I would have to say fade in. Oh, right, I can't do this. So let's try fade toggle. Nice. Cool. Okay, one other thing, if I go back this slide, maybe this is not a common misconception, but it's just something that happened in my class, is I would have students who would try slide in and slide out, and that does not work. So just like being careful about your wording here. Cool. Okay, so now that we've made the dog appear, disappear with fade, you've got another independent practice. We've got a jQuery funhouse. Again, mild, medium, or spicy, it is up to you, but I suggest at least medium. You've got some practice using lots of images, right? So you're gonna have to use all the classes. We wanna click the garage door opener and open the garage. We wanna click the Pokeball and have Pikachu appear. We wanna click the light switch and have the light switch on and off, all right? One thing that I'm going to just point out here, just for you to use later, if you look at the CSS, the question is like, where is Pikachu right now? Pikachu right now is display none, and that's why we don't see Pikachu right now. Right, this is how you make it so that a picture is on your page, but when you first load it, it is not appearing. All right, so if you want something to like fade in, like if I had wanted the dog to fade in, right, without being there at first. All right, so again, we can see like all of our languages talk to each other, and students need to be competent in every single one in order to make a full website, because they would need to add the image to their HTML, add the CSS styling so that it's displayed none, and then add the jQuery so that it will appear when they want it to. Okay, so take a couple minutes, get this funhouse done, make sure you're saving your work, and come back to me when you are done. All right, so now that your funhouse is done, let's head into 6.3. So in 6.3, we're going to take jQuery and we're going to give them more than one argument, and we're going to introduce two new actions, .text and .css. All right, again, reviewing our syntax. We're still at 3 lines, still got everything the same. In this lesson, we are just changing this bottom line again, right? Even in actually last lesson, we did not change this. This was .click function. We're just changing the bottom part, all right? All right, the CSS action. We are now getting into more than just appear and disappear, and we actually want to change the color of something, all right? This gets slightly more complicated because you'll see that we have a comma here, all right? And we've got to have this in quotes, and we've got to have this in quotes, all right? Let's see if I have this slide. No, I do not. All right, I will show you in the pop code. But basically, the same way that when you write CSS, you would say if you want the color to be aqua, you would do color colon aqua. It's the same thing. You're actually saying you want to change when you click this button, right? Or I guess when you click whatever dot change is. You want the body of the screen, right? So anything, any text is going to be the color aqua. If you just wrote the word color, it wouldn't know what color to make it. If you just wrote aqua, they wouldn't know if you meant background color, whatever, right? If we added background color, the whole background of the body would turn aqua, right? Again, this is something that is easier to see. So I'm going to head into a pop code soon. But your volunteers will use the word arguments. So make sure that students know that these are arguments that we're passing in. All right. And then the last thing before we head into guided practice is .text. If we want to just change the words on the screen, we're going to put .text. So when we click the button, this class will the text will change from whatever it was to hello. And again, this is also an argument. Okay. And if we want more than 3 lines of text, we can actually say when we click the button, multiple things happen. So it could be when we click the button, the dog hides, the cat shows, the color of the div changes to yellow, and the text changes. So like a ton of different things can happen if you just add more lines. Notice that we indent so that you know when we click this button, everything that's indented is going to happen. And then we're closing this out at the bottom here, right? So we have to close it out after we finish everything. All right, so let's take a look at this pop code so that you can see what I've been talking about. All right, so we've got Homer eating a donut. We're going to write the jQuery code to add a reply for Homer so that when reply yes is clicked, he says something. Okay, so we've got click to reply yes. Nothing happens when we click it. So let's say, close this up. Okay, so when we click reply yes, I see it already here, right? All right, button class, reply yes, click to reply yes. Okay, so we got reply yes. All right, notice we've got this empty P, that's Homer's reply. So if I just want to say like, hello, let's see where this shows up. All right, this shows up here, right? But I want this to show up when I click. So I'm going to delete this again. All right, empty P. All right, so I'm going to say, here we go. Okay. $, always, right? And we want this to appear in Homer's reply. So dot Homer's reply. All right, we want some text to appear, right? So it says, can I have another donut? Click to reply yes. Of course. Okay, so can I have another donut? Of course. Okay. If we are practicing colors, right, and we want this text to change, we'll say when we click reply yes, we also want Homer's reply, .css, and let's say color. Notice that I'm going to close the quotes and then make the comma. Let's make it green. Okay. Again, this is inside here. All right, inside our curly braces. Of course, green. Cool. All right, notice that if I put this here, all right, which this means that when I click reply yes, oh, it's still green. Weird. I don't actually know why it's doing that. I'm going to figure it out later, though, and I'll let you guys know. Weird. All right. You know, if you can figure it out, let me know. Cool. All right. So now that we have done this, yep, we did this. Okay. One other thing that we could do is, let's say we want to change it so that not just the reply is green, but everything else is green. We could use body, right? And we use body a lot because everything is inside the body, right? We got, of course, that's green. And we also, can I have another donut that's green? All right. I'm still weirded out by the fact that this didn't make a difference. whatever. I'm going to leave you guys for your independent practice. All right. Okay, so you're going to head into the same pop code that I clicked into. Again, mild, medium, or spicy, but you can see that it's at the bottom of where I was anyways. You are going to complete the reply no, so that when you click this reply no button, something else happens. All right, there's some bonus challenges. See if you can change the photo or the background image or Homer's photo. Students get really into this because it's probably one of the biggest changes that they've made so far. It is a little bit different. Yep, there's a new jQuery that you have to use, right? Instead of .text or .css, you have to use .attr. It's actually also in the reference table, both this year's and last year's. So if you can grab a copy of last year's reference table, because I know they're still floating around, that could help you out if you are struggling trying to change the photo. Okay, so this is our third independent practice. There's only one more after this. Come back to me when you are done. All right, almost done, y'all. Okay, let's go through our last Unit 6 lesson. All right, this will allow students to write event handlers that allow the page to respond. So we are changing the top line this time. All right, we are going to write different event handlers. We're going to keep the bottom the same. All right, we've learned everything that we need to learn about the bottom, which is our like hide, show, fade, slide, text, CSS. All right, now we're going to say like, what if we want to do something and it's not a click? All right, so an event is anything that happens on the page. It can be clicking, typing, hovering, moving the mouse. If you think about Google, you know, when you type in your search response and then like at the bottom, it like kind of auto fills in for you what they think you're typing. That is an event and can actually be done with jQuery. So even the hover in Maxwell's portfolio, he did it, I believe, in CSS, but that is also an event that can be done in jQuery. All right. So we write them so that when something specific happens, right, the page changes. All right. So again, we are changing this top part. So instead of saying .click, we are going to do something else. All right. We can change it to double click, dblclick, and that means that when the button is double clicked, the image will hide. All right. We can also use mouse enter, which means when the mouse like enters into that div or like enters to the top of that picture. All right. Mouse leave is when it leaves that picture. So you might have something like if you are online shopping and you like go over the menu bar, right? Like it extends or whatever, or like maybe more options show. And then when you move your mouse away from it, it disappears. All right, so that's where you might use mouse enter, mouse leave. Hover is kind of like the toggle of that. Like when you're hovering over it, it will show. When your mouse goes away, it will not show. So hover is almost like the toggle part of that. Okay, there's also more of these that have to do with typing and stuff like that that we do not teach. But if you personally are curious, you can Google it or ask me and we can go over it because it's really cool. Okay, last guided practice. We're going to update Whack-A-Mole, all right, so that we have double click, mouse enter, mouse leave. All right. All right, we are now in Whack-A-Mole. Okay, so we want to use double click to make mouse 1 disappear when the user clicks on it. All right, so here's mole 1. Instead of click, all I'm going to do is I'm going to change this to dbl. Okay, so now this is mole 1, right? Click, nothing happens. Double click, disappears. Cool? Okay. Use mouse enter to make mole 2 disappear. Okay, so we're going to change this click to mouse enter. All right, which should mean when I move my mouse over it, it will disappear. Cool. So we've got double click, move my mouse over it, and then mouse leave, changing this third mole, mouse leave. All right, which means it's actually fine if I hover over it. Nothing's happening, nothing's happening, nothing's happening until I move my mouse away. Uh-oh. What's wrong with my mouse sleeve? Let's double check. Third mole. This is still an ID. All right. Flag for the curriculum team. Okay. Nothing happens. There we go. All right, I will fix that before you all get this. Okay. Cool. Okay, so we are now at your last independent practice. There are 4 boxes. All right, if we click into our medium here. All right. Here is a flag for you and for students. If you take a look at the boxes, we've got divs that say top left space box. That means that this div actually has 2 different classes attached to it. One is .top left and one is .box. All right, this one is .top right and .box. If you type into here, top right box, because there's a space, that doesn't work. All right, this is not going to work because there's a space here. You're going to pick one or the other, and students will also just pick one or the other. This has gone over, I believe, in Unit 4 maybe, when we start talking about CSS selectors, but it's been a while, so a lot of students forget this, and it's something to remind them as they head into this activity. Just for your reference as a coder, the reason why somebody might use 2 classes like this, especially if they have the same class for lots of things, is I bet you if we go into CSS, you'll see that they wanted all of the boxes to look the same, right? So since all of the boxes look the same, they all have to have the same class, but we are going to want to change them so they're all different, which means they all have to have a different class as well. All right, so that's something to think about as you start designing your own web pages, of like, if you want to have multiple classes so that there's one that can make things all kind of the same and then one that'll make things a little different. All right, finish this up and come back when you are done. All right, and we just finished all of Unit 6 in hopefully not that long. Remember that students will have way more time. This is also a good unit to throw a review day in, either at the end of this unit or if students are struggling in the middle of this unit. What I like about the way it is set up is if we go back to this reminder here, we are either changing the top line or the bottom line each day, but we are never changing both. So the first day we're going to teach both, and then we're just going to focus on one or the other. You can notice as we went through the guided practice that a lot of things were pre-filled in for students so that students are not writing it all from scratch, which will help students get used to the syntax. All right, we ideally don't want them like copying and pasting everything because they're going to have to remember to put in like this closing tag and like the $sign and all these quotes. But a lot of the things are really similar. All right, so once they get the idea of it, and if you keep saying like, when you click the button, we're going to hide the image, they're going to get used to what goes on the first line and what goes on the second line. I know that some of it is also like, I didn't talk at all about this function here, which like doesn't really come up actually until like Year 2, where we talk about functions, or like why we have these blank parentheses right there. This is something that your volunteers might want to go into, and depending on your class, you might want to let them go a little bit, but then pull them back because it's not something that we need to focus too much on this unit. We really just want them to get used to like one part at a time. Okay, so in closing, we have gone over all of these things. If there is one of these lessons that you have more trouble with than other ones, please let me know so that we can go over it in person during our in-person tech talk. I will be going over some of the independent practices. We can do some of the guided practices together before I introduce our project. Is this my last slide? Yes, this is my last slide. I probably should have made one more that had your assignment on it, but you do not have to do a project before the in-person tech talk. The only thing you are responsible for are these 4 independent practices, all right? And I actually just want you to pick at least one of them for you to submit to the Google Classroom. You do not need to submit all of them if you do not want to. If you're really proud of all of them and you want me to look at them, you can absolutely add all 3 or add all 4 of them to the Google Classroom, and I will look at all of them and comment on all of them. I would say if there is one that you were really struggling with and you want to add it, that will help me figure out what I need to go over during our tech talk. And you can also write a comment. So whatever comments you have for me, we will go over some of these on Friday, and I am looking forward to seeing your pop codes and introing the project for this unit because it's starting to get real cool. All right. Please feel free to Slack me or let me know if you have any questions. Yeah, thanks.